Rainbow and Applejack take the Cinnamon Challenge by rocketslug. Please do not attempt the Cinnamon Challenge. Rainbow Dash held the metal spoon in her mouth. It was a beautiful sunny day outside, and she had let Applejack out with a video camera to record themselves performing this so-called Cinnamon Challenge. Although Applejack had never used a tape of newfangled contraption quite like the video camera, she was able to turn it on and begin filming Rainbow Dash with ease.
Hey guys! Today I'm going to be taking the Cinnamon Challenge,
Rainbow Dash said to the camera. Applejack still wasn't sure as to how this sort of thing worked. Was there an audience of tiny little ponies just sitting and watching from inside the camera, or has Rainbow Dash just finally lost her mind?
Applejack is behind the camera in case anything bad happens.
Rainbow Dash's tone indicated that she wasn't really sure if something bad would happen. It didn't really seem likely in her mind. The Pegasus gestured to Applejack, who waved an orange hoof in front of the camera lens.
Now where's the cinnamon? I told you to bring it.
AJ responded. Rainbow Dash face hoofed.
Oh man, I only brought the spoon. Don't you have some at home?
Applejack sighed.
Yeah, I guess I'll run back home and get it.
She trotted off, leaving the camera unsupervised.
Well, I'm just gonna get the cinnamon.
Rainbow Dash groaned into the camera.
It'll be a while before we can begin, but now I'm gonna serenade you with only the sweetest of tunes.
She smirked, and then opened her mouth.
I'm back, Rainbow, and I brought the cinnamon.
Rainbow Dash coughed, for her song had been cut short. She turned to Applejack, who was carrying a familiar spice in a red saddlebag. AJ rustled through the bag and pulled out the red jar with her mouth.
Awesome!
Rainbow Dash exclaimed, as she opened a container and poured a generous amount of brown dust onto her spoon.
We have to get a big spoonful,
she said to the camera. When she had a mountain of cinnamon on her spoon, she stuck it in her mouth and swallowed roughly. The cinnamon wasn't even halfway down her throat when she began to cough and cack, sounding like a beagle who had just swallowed something not suitable for eating. Brown dust flew from Rainbow Dash's mouth and tears welled up in her rosy eyes. She held her stomach for all the coughing and cacking. Applejack laughed from behind the camera.
You think you're so tough, Applejack?
Rainbow Dash was able to muster from between rough coughs.
You should try it. Well, I'm not going to use the same spoon you used.
Applejack replied.
We don't have another.
Rainbow Dash groaned, her voice cracking. AJ sighed.
I'll just run back home and get a spoon.
She trotted off, leaving the camera unsupervised again.
Well,
Rainbow Dash said to the camera.
She's gonna get something from home again, and I would sing for you guys, really, but my throat is so dry from all that cinnamon. So I'll just dance for you instead.
She smirked. She lifted herself up onto her two hind legs.
I'm back, and I brought a spoon for myself.
Rainbow Dash jumped, leaving her amazing Gangnam-style dance moves behind.
So, are you ready for the Cinnamon Challenge?
She asked, lifting the jar. Applejack nodded nervously. Rainbow Dash unscrewed the container and dumped another mountain of cinnamon onto the spoon.
Enjoy.
She grinned, stepped behind the camera. Applejack stuck her tongue out and slurped up some of the cinnamon. It was a bit dry and awful tasting, but it wouldn't be nearly as torturous as if she took her time.
AJ! You gotta do it all at once!
Rainbow Dash exclaimed from behind the video camera. The farm pony sighed, sticking the rest of the brown dust into her mouth. The cinnamon wasn't even a quarter of the way down her throat when she began to cough and shake violently, more so than Rainbow Dash had when she attempted the challenge. Applejack's eyes welled up with tears, and the shaking of her body grew faster and faster until she was gone. Rainbow Dash gasped, clearly confused.
What happened?
She reached for the camera, placing it atop her head.
We'll be going mobile for a while to figure out what happened,
She told the supposed tiny audience. In this world, there was nothing. Not even gravity existed here. Any life that somehow made its way here would only float aimlessly. Only empty space. And was that a giant apple?
Help! Help!
The orange equine shouted. Her only response, silence. The giant apple floated in front of her and began to speak in a thick, unfamiliar language that only Equine knew. She nodded, and her blonde mane shaking a bit, and then her blank expression changed to one of confusion and fear.
What?
The apple replied to her, and the confused and fearsome look still remained on her face.
But why?
For the last time, the apple mumbled something, and then released the equine back into her own world. But as something so different to you and me and that rainbow equine who was with her. An extremely stressed, emotional, and frazzled Rainbow Dash finally returned to the grassy park where she and Applejack had challenged themselves before. Her video camera had fallen from her head about 2 hours ago, and she had wandered practically all of Ponyville in pursuit of her friend. She felt a creature's presence behind her, and she grinned as she turned around.
Applejack, you're bad!
Her grin changed quickly to a disturbed, disgusted look. Her familiar best friend had returned from an empty void of space and was now a small jar of sweet Apple Acres quality applesauce. The end.